Start this up. Okay, we're recording. Good evening, everyone. It's about 6:32 p.m. On Tuesday, March 9, 2021. Welcome to Manhattan Community Board 3's Transportation, Public Safety, Environment Committee meeting. Before we start with our agenda items, our Vice Chair, Michelle Cooper-Smith, will go over some of the instructions for the meeting.
Thanks, Paul. Yep, I just want to remind everyone, if you're new to the meeting, to please sign in the chat. And if you'd like to speak on a specific agenda item, please also indicate that in the chat. When we present, basically what will happen is either the chair or someone else will present on whatever item that we're discussing. Then generally the committee will ask questions, and then members of the public will have the chance to ask questions. So we'll ask you to raise your hands with the Zoom function once that agenda item is open to the public, and then we'll call on you in order, and each person will have 2 minutes to speak. If you're here from a particular community group, and there are many of you, please choose 2 people to speak on your behalf, unless you have vastly different things to say. That's just so that we can make sure that we have an efficient meeting. We always appreciate everyone who attends. Some of these items will have resolutions that the committee will then write and vote on after the discussion. I think that covers it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Michelle. Okay, so we got that out of the way. So everyone, please sign into the chat for your attendance. Let's start with our first agenda item, which will be the approval of minutes. I did send out the meeting minutes from February last night. If there's any questions or comments, if not, I'll move right to the attendance. Any objections to the minutes from February 2021 from the committee? Hearing no. Going once, twice, 3 times sold. Wendy, let's start off with the attendance, please.
Hello, Paul Rango.
Yes, here.
Michelle Cooper-Smith.
Here, yes.
Wendy Lee, yes. Lee Berman.
Yes.
David Crane.
Yes.
Felicia Cruikshank. Felicia.
She's not on.
Gotcha. Ellen Lowe.
Yes.
And Tariq Ramos.
I don't see him.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wendy. All right, so we do have a packed agenda tonight, everyone. I know there's a lot of different things affecting the district, but we're going to start off with the first agenda item. Is PSA 4 and 9th Precinct will be talking about the public safety issues involving the Avenue C East 3rd Street area by Verrazano and that whole area in itself. Is from PSA 4 is Detective Reed on? If you just let me know if you're on. Detective Reed and Officer Boyle, or are you both on?
I think Officer Boyles is on.
Yeah, Detective Reed and
Officer
Officer
Bowles.
Bowles is both here.
My fault. I wrote that wrong. So if you guys, is the 9th Precinct as well on? Is the 9th Precinct as well?
You want to give more detail?
Yeah, I'll grab it. Or one.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm sorry, I'm looking at a lot of different camera screens, so I just want to make sure I see everybody who's on. If the PSA 4, Detective Reed and Officer Bowles, if you can definitely just talk about the issues going on and update us on what's happening so far.
Sure. Officer Bowles from PSA 4. I'm actually the neighborhood coordinator officer for the Verrazano development for with regards to the housing. And you got Officer Detective Reed. She's the community affairs for PSA 4. So basically, in regards to safety concerns and the issues that's going on with the Verrazano side, we got a lot of complaints that there is a homeless condition that's been inside the building and around the building. We also got issues with narcotics related issues that's taking occurrence outside of the building. Lately, we are been addressing the condition in terms of the narcotics, whether we are summonsing, whether we are arresting, or we have an investigation going on. So at the moment right now, there is an investigation going on in terms of narcotics issues. And in regards to the homeless conditions, that's been addressed. So about a little over 2 weeks ago, there was a joint operation with the homeless outreach from the NYC. Myself and my partner did join with them, where we entered the building, and basically if there was any homeless person inside the development, we basically provide service for them and try to get them help. That was successful, and we were able to basically decrease the homeless condition. Now it's been a lot better than what it was over the time prior. I'm sorry. Oh, also there was an event that was conducted by Carolina Rivera's office, and who else? Harvey Epstein's, where we got together and we did basically like a safety concern for the Verrazano houses, where we actually talked about, try to get people to talk about safety issues, and we did give them, there were flyers given out, and we were having, discussions and seeing if anything we could all get together and kind of, get the safety issue going. All right. Also on Thursday, with the TA president, along with my partner, the NCO, we gathered and we were able to distribute food for the community, and that was very successful. Basically, giving out food and kind of hearing the community in regards. So that was a big plus too. So there is a lot of progress going on, and it's not going to stop here. It's just going to keep continuing until we find more solutions.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else that you want to report on, or is that it for now?
That's pretty much 2021 so far. In regards to violence crime, we've been doing okay with Verrazano. I'm sure everybody knows about the homicide that took place across the street. That's an ongoing investigation right now. So we will, I'm not going to go further into that. Also, another thing I want to discuss is definitely join the Build a Block meeting. I do host a Build a Block meeting every quarter. The NCOs, along with other NYPD officers, they do. We gather and basically we listen to everybody's concerns. So please, if everybody can join, that'd be great.
Thank you. Please, when you guys get a chance, to send that information over to the office, and we'll definitely circulate it. I'm going to start with questions from the committee, but I'll start off. You did mention.
Paul,
Yes, Susan.
Maybe hear from the 9th first?
Sure. Does the 9th precinct want to add anything in addition? Because I know that was PSA 4 and 9th precinct. I know you guys crisscross on some stuff, so go right ahead.
Who's here from the 9th?
Hello, this is Officer Petrigno from the 9th Precinct. Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm not the best with the technology, so please excuse me for that. I'm the NCO administrator for the 9th Precinct. This is my first community meeting. So just observing for now, and then as the meeting goes on, I'll take notes, and any additional questions anyone has, I'll follow up with those questions. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to open the floor for questions from the committee. First, you did, PSA 4 did mention about that murder that took place several weeks ago. You said that it's an ongoing investigation. Was an arrest made? I wasn't sure if that happened.
That's an ongoing investigation. It was a homicide.
Right.
So
Yeah,
we can't give out
no
we don't
arrest
have-
yet.
No, we don't have any other further information in regards.
Okay.
At the moment, right now, it's an ongoing investigation. So for us, we cannot really, if there's anything that can be related to the public right now, I'll be more than happy to share it with you. But as of now, it's an ongoing investigation as of now.
Copy. Committee, does the committee have any questions?
I have a question about you mentioned the jurisdiction. Can you just explain, or can someone explain to us what the difference between the two, the 9th precinct and PSA 4, like what the different jurisdictions are, just so we understand?
So PSA 4 covers the housing developments on the Lower East Side and Elliott Chelsea on the West Side, and the 9th precinct, they cover anything off development. However, we're still one police department, so sometimes we do cross over in investigations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The homicide investigation is not a joint investigation, correct? This is just solely goes to PSA 4?
It's a joint investigation. The homicide didn't occur on housing side, it occurred on the 9th precinct side.
Okay. All right. I wasn't clear on that. Thank you.
Okay, no, you're welcome.
Susan, go ahead. I see your hand.
Thank you. So I know the police, and I think particularly PSA 4, has put out a lot of extra police. There's I think a police van there, and there's extra people there, and that's probably not going to be sustainable forever. And we do know the murder was drug dealers, and they'll probably move another area, probably in CB3. So I'm wondering, it seems, or is there a procedure or protocol to call in like specialized narcotics team from One Police Plaza that would be in addition to the precincts to put in extra manpower? I know the precincts are not allowed to do undercover anymore, which I would think would really hinder them. So is there a protocol to call in extra resources?
So Susan, hello.
Hi.
There are ongoing investigations with narcotics. However, it's unfortunate we can't give any information. So when someone calls in drug sales or alleged drug sales, we do refer them or pass it on to narcotics, and they take it from there. We don't have any other information until maybe it's a takedown, and that's something that the CO or what is it, the FIO, the Field Intelligence Officer, they would participate in that more so than we will, on our level.
Are you able to say if there has been an increase in another area while you have so much staffing around Bracetti?
Increases in as of what?
Drug dealing.
Well, I don't have the specific numbers for PSA 4. However, across the developments, we get complaints about drug deals and homelessness quite often. So I couldn't give you a statistic on that, but be sure there are some developments that has more going on than Bracetti, a lot more.
So let's put it this way. In terms of narcotics related issues on the Bracetti, or whether in the area of Bracetti, it definitely decreased. If we're pasting the 2021 comparing it to 2020 or 2019, as of now, for November, for January and February, if we compare it, it definitely decreased. But in terms of investigations and with the narcotics, we still have a narcotic team that it is with the NYPD. They still have investigations. They build cases, and what they do is you build a case among someone, whether they live in the building or they're selling outside or whatever it is. The case is being built. There is an investigation going on, and they do what they got to do. On our end, is that when we observe a violation or we do observe a misdemeanor or a felony, we go ahead and we take action based upon that. And in terms of the case, we really try not to touch, give a lot of information because it can lead into like messing up the case or something, for example. But as of now, I could assure you that there is investigations goes on constantly in the Verrazano houses, and we do know who our players are, who are selling the drugs, and we're trying to do a pattern, and we're trying to get it to basically a conviction. Unfortunately, with the DA nowadays is, we get them in and they go right back out, but we are working on it where we're constantly building the case stronger and stronger. Okay.
We can't say anything because we can't compromise an investigation.
Wouldn't want you to do that.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Lee Berman, I see your hand up.
Yes. So first, thank you to PSA 4 and to the 9th Precinct for attending. My question is for Susan and Paul, is there a representative of NYCHA here?
They weren't invited. They are invited to the NYCHA meeting tomorrow night, but they aren't involved in the public safety issues.
I think it's critical that they should be. For example, when residents of Verrazano, as well as so many other housing developments located in Community Board 3, discuss with community leaders and others security issues. For example, broken doors in so many developments that are allowed to remain broken for months or longer.
That's tomorrow night.
Well, that's still part of public safety, and the articles that were distributed for our meeting discussed so many public safety issues, and it really does behoove NYCHA to be here to discuss how they've allowed so many issues to occur and be ongoing, to exist for so long. And the other comment is Paul, I would really appreciate hearing comments from, if there are residents of Verrazano and other developments here tonight, to hear firsthand their concerns.
Yeah, Lee. So I eventually go to the community. I know there's a lot of people on from that particular development on for tonight. I will pivot to them in a moment. I know there is a NYCHA Section 8 subcommittee meeting tomorrow that this item is also on as well. So does the committee have any other questions right now before I pivot to the community? Okay, I can always come back to the committee. I do see if I will ask.
Yeah, can we
the
ask
community,
everyone to raise their hands? Yeah.
Yeah, to start, if you are from the community and have questions for PSA 4 or the 9th Precinct, this would be the time to start raising your hands and I will call on you. The first person I see is Marquise Jenkins. Am I saying that correctly, Marquise?
That is, and thank you so much for having us meet and then bringing this topic up. My question to the police department and PSA 4 is in regards to an event that was held in the lobby of Verrazano on Saturday. As we talk about safety and security, I am told that as much as 40 of your police officers was in the lobby of my building on Saturday talking to residents. That's a concern for me because of COVID-19. Given that that's a small building, that was a hazardous event. So I'm wondering why that event took place. I'm also understanding that no residents took part in organizing that event. So again, I'm wondering why that event took place, who organized it, and we also deserve an apology from the police department for putting our residents in greater harm.
Excuse me. I'm sorry, we did not invite them here. I'm going to jump in and say this.
I want to get off of this.
We did not invite them here to apologize. We invited them here to help.
You asked me if I had a question. You're talking about my building, and so I'm asking a question, and I would like very much for them to answer. So thank you very much.
Okay, so that event was actually organized by Carolina Rivera's office, and NYPD was invited. I wasn't actually at that event. However, Officer Bowles is going to speak on that, but I know that the officers wore masks, and it was officers from Community Affairs, PSA 4, and the Auxiliary and the Explorers Unit. Hold on. I can't get that screen.
Oh, yeah. Hi, how are you? I'm sorry, I didn't get your name, by the way, whoever was asking that question. Hi, Marquise.
Yes.
Hi, all right, so I was at the meeting. We were invited from Carolina Rivera's office, along with Harvey Epstein's. They basically what they wanted to do is basically do like a safety safety concern thing, and they wanted to basically just talk to people about safety, and they invited us. So we did accept the invitation, and we were there, just presence and showing support in regards to that. In terms they were giving out a lot of like a lot of masks for COVID-19, and they were giving out a lot of hand sanitizer. They were providing a lot of
is there a reason why you needed so many police officers to be in attendance in the lobby?
Well, the reason the Explorers, there wasn't.
No. These were police officers. I'm not talking about the Explorers. I'm talking
We don't want people going back and forth in the meeting today. Can you just let the officer?
Yeah, but I just want to
please?
make sure the record is.
So
I don't want people to be misled.
The presence of us being there, and if you want to consider that it was a big amount, we did distribute a lot of boxes, which a lot of us were constantly helping out, bringing it to door.
So you weren't concerned about spreading COVID-19 with having that many
Mr. Jenkins,
people in
Mr.
a
Jenkins,
confined
please let
space.
the officer speak. Thank you.
Okay. So that's why we were there. We did provide assistance in regards to bringing the boxes to each apartment in the building, and they were talking about safety issues, and they wanted to basically chit chat with other tenants. That's all. So that's the reason that we were there that day.
Thank you. All right. Next person I see hand up is Ms. Harrington. Oh, I think I see your hand.
So hi, thank you again for having this meeting. I'm going to turn off this awful ring light. When Susan set this up on the agenda, we had not yet spoken. We did speak afterwards, and it's really important for people to understand that this is not a Bersetti Plaza issue. This is an area issue. It includes Bersetti. And by the way, with regard to Saturday's event, in a Zoom meeting that I had earlier that week, Teresa, who is the TA president, made it very clear that she was involved in organizing that meeting. So folks should probably speak with her about that. But the issue is area-wide. It is not just the fact that there's a lot of direct traffic that is overtly happening in Bersetti. It is also overtly happening on my block, and in fact, in my building and on my roof and in my basement when they can get in. I'm the president of East 4th Street Block Association from D to B. It has been escalating for the past 5 years on our block, including at Bersetti. It is also happening on East 3rd Street between C and D. In fact, the drug activity is bookend at each of our blocks. The Block Association, the Teresa and other people at Bersetti have been holding small meetings to address this issue. But a part of what we need from the community, the police, Community Board 3, our elected officials, is help with removing some of the areas, the safety of some of the areas where this is occurring. We are not just talking about shootings. We are not just talking about drug trafficking or package dealing. We are also talking about things that have happened over the past couple of years with regard to drug trafficking, like sexual assaults, thefts, so on and so forth. So let's make it clear. Vercetti is one place that they can get into and feel comfortable engaging in this behavior. The bookends of our blocks or other places, if they can get into buildings on our blocks, they will do it. But also on East 4th Street between C and D is a school. The drug activity taking place directly across from and in front of the school has escalated over the years as well. We need help with, to begin with, the removal of all of the scaffolding that is in our area where people gathered. We know that the 3rd Street and Avenue C is going to be demolished. We don't know when. Lower East Side Coalition Housing manages several properties on 4th Street and around to Avenue D, where a lot of the drug trafficking is taking place. They need to be held responsible and accountable for removing that scaffolding and making the repairs to make that happen. In addition to the scaffolding at NYCHA, we, the leaders of these 3 entities, will be sending a letter to Scott Stringer asking for his approval and using money to make those repairs through Carlina Rivera's office. But also, it is important that we stop talking about NYCHA like it's an island. That is a big part of dividing the community and not getting things done. There should be no way that what's going on in Vercetti is a discussion that is particular to Vercetti. I'm sorry, or that a discussion about East 4th Street or East 3rd Street is particular, because it all is the same problem.
We're out of time.
Okay, just one last thing. Up until 5 years ago, we were good. We did not have this kind of traffic. We did not have these kind of problems. But it has proliferated. We need scaffolding removed. We need cameras. We need arrests to take place. We need the police presence on the block. So I'll leave it at that. But I just want to emphasize this is not a Vercetti Plaza problem. It extends to all the blocks mentioned in the avenues as well. And a joint effort to get rid of this has to happen with all of us working together.
Thank you.
Paul, Aura wasn't able to raise her hand, but she'd like to speak also. Oh, there she is.
Okay, I saw Isabel's hand as well. I saw Isabel's hand first. Let me go with Isabel, and then we'll start, and then I'll go to Aura. Isabel, you can go.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and thank you, Marquise, for what you shared. I want to just clarify a little bit about the event that happened on Saturday. The event was organized by NYCHA, their deputy director of, I'm trying to get his exact title, the deputy director for community safety strategies. We weren't aware until a few days before the event happened. We were invited. We brought PPE. We assisted with the food delivery. We wanted to be there. We were not aware of all of the dynamics, all of the things that would be happening that Saturday. And I would really welcome you and or anyone else on this meeting to connect with our office, with AUDA. We've been working closely on this, on ways that we can collaborate that feel best and helpful for the community. I know that something we had discussed at a meeting before was getting more harm reduction services and other resources for the community, for young people. And that's something that we would absolutely like to continue to do and plan it with enough time so that everyone involved can be part of that process.
Thank you, Isabel. Okay, Aura, I see your hand.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aura. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff for Assemblymember Harvey Epstein. And as Isabel mentioned, we've been working really closely to try and find resolutions for several issues that are happening in and around Vercetti and East 3rd Street and Avenue C. I just wanted to reiterate what Isabel said. Our office didn't actually plan this event. It was something planned by NYCHA, and our office was invited. I was actually very ill last week, and so I was not aware of it until earlier today. So just to clarify that our offices didn't plan it, but we were invited. And if you have any questions or concerns, I'm happy to be a point of contact. I heard a member talk about trying to get all of the agencies at the table at the same time. And I did plan a meeting along with Carlina's office to try and have everybody on the same page, like all the agencies, to figure out strategy wise how we could brainstorm and find ways to make the building and East 3rd Street a safer place for everybody. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Susan, I see you. I thought I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I'll just some information. So the NYCHA Vercetti scaffolding will very specifically be on the agenda tomorrow night. It is a NYCHA funding issue, basically. And I expect there will be a resolution to send to Scott's office for the same thing that Io was speaking about, asking for funding so that the work can be done, so that the scaffolding could come down. The scaffolding at 32 Avenue C, which is private scaffolding, and I know Carlina's office has been very involved in that. That's a private owner who is now talking about demolition plans in the very short future to remove 2 floors, which would then not need the scaffolding, but then he may build an additional floor, which would require scaffolding. So we don't know what's happening on that, but people, I'm just going to say, are certainly trying to do that. The reason this started as a Vercetti issue is because residents from that housing organized a walkthrough. And it was at that walkthrough that I said, how about if I put this on the community board agenda? And I hope they will be speaking also.
Sorry, I'm having some issues with my mute button today. Thank you, Susan. I see Luke Wolf from the Comptroller Stringer's office is raising his hand. Go right ahead, Luke.
Hi, everyone. Luke Wolf from Controller Scott Stringer's office. It sounds like we have a few letters coming our way, but just to provide a little bit of context on this. First, Io, thank you for providing that kind of community context, and we look forward to working with the community board and the Block Association and NYCHA and NYPD and everyone else to hopefully get to a resolution on all this. We've been working with Councilmember Rivera's office on that scaffolding at NYCHA issue. And this is something that we've seen there, but also kind of as part of NYCHA's citywide portfolio. And the issue really comes down to what is deemed a capital versus expense. So if this was deemed capital funding, then it opens up one revenue stream, but this sort of local law 11 facade work, which is what leads to the scaffolds being put up, is under the expense category. And right now, NYCHA, because of we all know about the shortfalls at NYCHA, does not have the funding for it. So we are continuing to work with the council member's office to come up with solutions, whether legislatively or otherwise, to kind of see how we can work through this and get around it. But as of right now, the issue is just like for so many of the issues at NYCHA, a funding shortfall issue. And we have tried to kind of talk to our team about that capital versus expense designation, but it really goes back to government accounting principles in terms of what is deemed one versus the other. But we'll continue to work on that with the council member's office and everyone else on this call. And I guess look forward to receiving your letters.
Thank you. I know there's a lot of this stuff is going to be mentioned tomorrow night at NYCHA Section A subcommittee.
We'll see you there tomorrow.
So is that Clint Smeltzer with his hand up? Clint, you can go right ahead.
Hi, everyone. I would just like to add on a little bit to what Io said about, it being on the surrounding streets. My building goes, the front is on 2nd Street, the back is on 3rd Street. I myself have been physical. Assault is a strong, but I've been physically harassed several times on 3rd Street. I've stopped going that way after dark. But in response to what Susan asked, now that the police are sitting there and they're not hanging out underneath the scaffolding on 2nd or 3rd and C, they've now moved. So this morning at 9 o'clock, when I left the front of my building on 2nd and Houston, essentially, there's this guy who I've seen very often. He's obviously very high out of his mind on something. He was dancing and talking with a signpost, but yet he was physically approaching women as they walked by and harassing them. I mean, luckily you could see he was not in his right mind, so people were steering clear of him. But I've noticed that some of the people, I recognize them from the 3rd Street side, have now moved to the front. There's benches further down on 2nd and Houston. They're kind of congregating there. There's some more scaffolding down there. So some of the regulars that I used to see have dispersed just to other places in the neighborhood and are still around. Another thing that I've seen happening, there was a phone booth in front of our building that was finally removed. It was actually just an office for a drug dealer. That's been removed. He now moved 10 feet away and is around the corner of the construction plywood in front of what used to be barrier-free living. So he's continuing his operations there. He's generally harmless, but some of his customers get a little bit aggressive if you walk by and they think you observe them in mid-transaction. So it just is still around. It's just maybe dispersed a little bit more. So I'm not sure how to address that, but I just wanted to add on and maybe, add to what Susan was asking about in terms of has it increased in other places? I think it may have spread out some of it. Yes. So thank you.
Thank you, Clint. So I just wanted to add on to that a little bit. I do know the neighborhood relatively well, also being an Avenue C resident. So my question is, from a public safety standpoint, without jeopardizing the investigations that are ongoing, I presume there are several investigations going on, not just in relation to 3rd Street, up the block, 4th Street, 5th Street, up to 6th, 7th, all the way down to Houston and further down. What's hampering a lot of this stuff? What's holding back on arrests or anything like that? What's the question I'm looking for? What can the community board do to support any situations that can help in making arrests and how in writing resolutions down the line to help this situation? These are situations that are not going away. So they're either being addressed quickly with a Band-Aid and then people move around and do what they got to do, as you've heard here tonight. So how do we help in this situation? How do we assist? What's the kind of assistance you need from this board? That could be the PSA 4 or the 9th precinct, whoever wants to answer that.
Putting you on the spot.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. First, let me apologize to Carlina's office and Harvey Epstein's. I was under the assumption that event on Saturday was hosted by you guys. I didn't know it was a NYCHA's event. And I'm sorry. Paul, what are you exactly asking? How do we combat the issues that's going on in this area?
Yeah, so I know there's a lot of investigations going on. You mentioned that. You have the homicide investigation, you have drug investigations going on, and I believe those two items are probably closely related. How do we assist if this is a slow process? I'm imagining your investigations are slow right now, or slower than they've been in the past. How do we assist with any of that stuff? Maybe it's a conversation to have. happen offline of what kind of support you need from this board to help, because there's a lot of people who are, I'm sure, who wanted to come out tonight from the community, who probably wanted to say some stuff, but may have some fear or some trepidation of saying stuff. So how can we assist? How can we be of a better voice for the community in situations like these?
Well, any investigation taken serious, and you don't want to, to come to a hasty decision. So what we would ask the community is, if you have any information about any crimes that's being committed, or anything that's being committed in your community that you may deem to be a crime, call us, let us know. You have the NCO's number, you have community affairs number, we have our community council number. If you don't call NYPD, you can also call Harvey Epstein's office and Carlina Rivera's office. I mean, that's basically just any information you have out there. We're out there working with the public. We're working with people, the residents that's giving us information. However, we still have to handle this. We can't rush to judgment. In regards to homeless people, we don't want to victimize the homeless for being homeless. So if we introduce them to resources, but a lot of them don't want to go into the shelters. A lot of them feel safe. You're giving food away in the community. I'm pretty sure the homeless know, listen, if I go to East 3rd Street, East 4th Street, or if this development is giving food, I'm going to eat tonight. So as homeless people, they want to feel safe too. It may be an eyesore to some of us. Some of us don't like what we see. However, they're still people, so we can't come outside and say, okay, you've been in the building, let's lock them up. They will be arrested if they're committing a crime. And anything more than that, maybe the 9th precinct or Officer Bowles, wants to comment on that.
Yes, no, I'm glad you brought that situation. And lately, I don't know if you guys are aware of in the beginning of 2020, sorry, it's only one count. We're trying to work with it. I don't know if you guys could see me. Yep. So I don't know if you guys know, in the beginning of 2020, new laws took into effect. We did the criminal justice system did go with what do you want to call it, the bail reform. So a lot of things just completely, I don't want to say it turned 180, but it turns of things where the NYPD and even the police in general kind of took a different route on policing. So in terms of that, more investigation just being built and built and built, opposed to just going out there like if you guys understand our crime units, it's not the undercover, it's basically the crime unit. So we can't go out in what you want to call in plain clothes. So if we want to catch, say for example, somebody doing drugs out in public, we understand when they see us in uniform, automatically they're gonna hide it. So unfortunately, we can't. It's not in our presence to go ahead and take police action and do enforcement on that. We can take your word, and that's why we say please come out and definitely reach out to us and let us know, so that way we could further investigate it and relate it to the proper unit, whether it's narcotics, whether it's vice, or whatever unit that we have that is specified for that, they will build the investigation based upon it. But in terms of just going out there and kind of just in plain clothes, we don't have that type of luxury to go ahead and take that anymore. So we are working in our best in terms of whatever tools we have, and we're going to work on that. So the more information, the more I'll be more than happy to give you guys, and vice versa. Please, and just like Detective Reed said, any information, please reach out to us. My email, through phone calls. You give me a call anytime. If I don't pick up, leave me a voicemail. Shoot me a text message and I will get back to you as soon as possible. If it's an extreme emergency, definitely call 911 right away. And I do highly recommend you guys come to our Build a Block meeting. We do listen to everything, and we do forward it to every unit that we could bring it to. All right. So that's what we have as of right now. Any new information, I'll be more than happy to share with you guys.
Thank you. I'm going to take the final few hands I see in this, and then I'll cut it off after this. I saw Ms. Harrington's hand first, so I'll start there.
So, so you asked specifically, what can be done? So, we've mentioned a couple of things. And as I said, the leadership at Vercetti and at the two block associations, have been having discussions about these matters, and the first thing is the removal. What Community Board 3 can do is, the removal of the scaffolding at Vercetti. We have a process that, or campaign to do that now at, 3rd and C, but also Lower East Side Coalition Housing. So the issue is not particular to any of them, it's particular to everyone in New York City. No one should be allowed to have scaffolding up, which says deterioration, someplace that I can hide, someplace I can do things undercover, for 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. It is a recipe for disaster. We all know what happens there. So that's number one. So pushing for any way in which we can make that citywide, a law to disallow it. Number two, to put up cameras in key areas on city-owned property. At a recent meeting, somebody spoke talking about how difficult this was. It's not difficult. We know the cameras have to go on city property. Light poles are city property. They can go there where people can't get to them. They especially should be around PS 15, both on the back and the front. It is a public school in which over 300 little kids attend. But in addition, police presence on our blocks. Some people may not like it. I don't particularly like it, but I also don't like to open my door and wonder or not there's going to be somebody in my hallway or somebody sitting on my front steps shooting dope, which has been happening. 11:15 in the morning, you can go outside on a school day when it's warm and see someone shooting dope on any of the steps on East 4th Street between C and D. It is absolutely ridiculous. So those three things can help to improve what's going on in the entire area.
Thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Final comments. Auda, I saw your hand up. Did I see that?
Yeah. I wanted to mention that I think that there's a hotline. Maybe Geneva could answer. There's like a hotline where you can text or call, where you can remain anonymous for those who feel unsafe sharing their identity. Do you have that on Geneva? Or is that just something the 9th does?
A hotline?
Maybe it's a number to text.
You know what? Let me look into it. And if we do have one, I'm not familiar with Crime Stoppers. Are you talking about Crime Stoppers? We have Crime Stoppers.
It's possible. I was thinking maybe something specific to the PSA 4 precinct since
no, we don't have an anonymous. We don't have an anonymous line. Like I said, you if anybody wants to make a complaint, they can email myself or my partner.
Or
they can call 311, or they can call the NCOs. They can send an email. But we don't have an anonymous tip line. We do have Crime Stoppers, NYPD Crime Stoppers, where people can, I'm just trying to find the number. People can call to Crime Stoppers and, say what's going on without being, their identity being compromised.
There's no text version of that, right? It's only calls.
Well, 311 is not for 311 is not for like crime. That's like for noise complaints, dog complaints, things like that. But
yeah, I'm aware of that.
I know. I think I know what she's talking about. Though they started this.
I think it started up like a year or two ago.
Yeah. Where you can. I'm not 100% sure, but let
me. Well, I can share the information with the community board if it's something that you find in the future.
They can actually call 1-800-577-TIPS for Crime Stoppers.
Okay.
Well, we'll look into it.
Thank you. I see somebody. This is the last comment I'm going to take from the community. I see somebody there. Mike, is that correct, Mike?
Yeah.
See your hand up?
So I live on right on the corner of East 3rd and Avenue C, right just to the east side there, right next to the scaffolding. As I've lived here for the past like 3 years, I've blatantly seen drugs being sold and bought. And it's my understanding, talking to NYPD, that there's basically this is a known issue. And I would say since this homicide that just occurred maybe a month ago, I've seen a total improvement of policing on the corner, which I think is great. And thank you for PSA 4 and NYPD. Like I truly do appreciate it. But I think really my concern is that this feels very reactionary. This is a known issue. This is something that's been going on, and there's been no action taken on it until a tragic event like this actually happens. So I think really like what my question is what is the long-term plan here? We know that this is an issue. We know that the scaffolding is the issue. The scaffolding is not going to go away. The scaffolding is going to be across the entire city, but we need to have a plan. Whether or not we're going to set up cameras or anything like that, we need to actually set forth what we are actually doing, and we're not going to just put a car out there for a couple months and then remove the car, because that's not sustainable. So what I guess NYPD, PSA 4, I would really like to hear like what is the long-term plan to kind of prevent these types of things from going on.
Thanks, Mike. I don't know if anyone wants to answer that from PSA 4 or from the 9th precinct.
This is who you are. Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm Sergeant Anthony from the 9th precinct. I'm actually the supervisor of the NCO program as well as the YCO program. I was primarily here to just monitor and pretty much listen as my officer was going through the meeting. But I do in fact want to answer that question. Because the question is actually posed to us as the police department, which I appreciated. But just as the other officer from PSA 4 has mentioned, last year changed a lot of things on how we do policing. And I know it's very oftentimes that it appears that the police department is not doing anything about the crime that is going on. And as you said, it is known, we see them doing it. But for these rules in particular that have taken into effect, believe it or not, we can actually arrest somebody, we'll put them through the system, and they will be out before we even finish processing. So it's not just a thing of nothing is being done. We're almost at the same kind of crossroads of like, it seems more repetition. We keep grabbing these guys for the same thing, and they keep getting out and almost immediately. So you posed a question to us, and I usually hate to answer questions with questions, but that's more or less our question. Like, what else can we do to stop this from happening? Because this is ongoing, as you said, and it's happening everywhere. And we feel the same way. We have a shooting here, so now it's a reactionary thing where we concentrate on one particular corner, when a precinct in itself actually covers the confines of up to 5 square miles in different places. So it may feel reactionary because now we're just focusing on this part, but we have other things going on. It almost seems like that's almost my question for you. How better else can we stop this from going on? We do see them. We do arrest them. And then oftentimes they're right back out.
Thank you. Susan, you have your hand up. I'll take one final comment.
Just a couple last comments. One, first of all, I want to thank Detective Reed for her comments on dealing with people who are experiencing homelessness. She and I have worked on this issue before. And what happened in this area, and the reason it took so long to kind of work on is there's city bureaucracy that does not allow homeless outreach on NYCHA property. Harvey's office organized a meeting of getting everyone in the same room, and a waiver was given. So now homeless outreach is able to go, and PSA 4 accompanying them, and that made a big difference. So I want to thank you for that. As far as the issues brought up, which I think basically talk about bail reform, We also have to think about the fact that what bail reform actually did was erase the difference between people with money getting out of jail and people who don't have money staying in jail. And I understand that things have to be done maybe differently, but if the precinct are asking us, okay, what should be done, it seems to me that we need to go to One Police Plaza and say, okay, we're hearing that it's difficult to deal with. What is the plan? That's it. I'm not, no one has to answer that.
No, it's fine. I'm sorry, like my buttons are not working tonight. All right. I've got
Paul,
nothing
there's one
else.
more person who had a question. I don't know if you want to.
Oh, that's right. I don't have the chat. Go ahead. Who's the person?
It's Kathleen Keene.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
So the day started splendidly here on East 3rd Street as we saw a lot of contractors at Brancetti Plaza, and it looked like the word was the scaffolding was coming down.
Yep.
I know that. It's a preface to the scaffolding issue. So Susan, you were at the meeting a couple weeks ago that Councilperson Rivera's office held, which I thought was very constructive. 32 Avenue C, this scaffolding. This owner is a bad actor. You mentioned the demolition permit. I've heard that this permit has been in place for a very long period of time and he just keeps extending it. It's current, but he keeps extending it. It's been 8 years, I think, that the scaffolding has been up. It's, we have struggling, potentially thriving businesses on that block. Downtown Florist, right behind M9. He moved to the neighborhood in January. We have, the liquor store, the deli across the street, and then we have this homicide that occurred, but we all knew we were going to get attention when something like this happened. So my question is more for guidance. Like, we know that everybody here wants something to happen, but the only person that seems to be able to make something happen is this owner who has proven that he has no intention and that, he files these permits and it's a placeholder for him to do nothing until maybe he waits out to get an offer that he likes or whatnot. So what can we as a community, I have a list of 42 residents on my block. We can be active. You tell us to email, you tell us to text, I can get more. I want to connect with Mike. He's not on my list. There are some other people in this meeting that I'd like to connect with, but tell us what to do and we'll do it. I just don't know.
Can I answer that?
Susan, go right ahead.
There's many reasons along with the ones that are brought up tonight, why the scaffolding should not be up for years. And city council must pass legislation. There is, I don't know if Isabel can tell us this, there is some kind of scaffolding bill coming up. I don't know if it covers that, but my council member may kill me for saying this, but I think you need to get city council to pass legislation. That is the only thing that is going to change it. As far as 32 Avenue C, we actually got an update today, and I'm going to give credit to Carolina Rivera's office for making this happen, but we got an update from DOB today. There does seem to be actual intentions now because this has been pushed. And again, someone had to die for it to happen. But we have to get a scaffolding bill. You're right. It's safety issues. It is also businesses going out of business because no one knows they're there. There's many reasons.
All right, thank you. Michelle, there was nothing else in the chat, correct?
No, but I agree. Local law 11 is crap and it needs to be, something needs to happen because it's a scourge. It's a city scourge. It's not just here.
Okay, so I'm going to close up this agenda item for the night. I want to thank the representatives of PSA 4, Detective Reed, Officer Bowles, representatives of the 9th Precinct as well, and members of the community that came out to speak on this agenda item. Thank you. Ms. Harrington, thank you about the cameras. That's very informative. That's something I want to look at a little bit more thoroughly and see if we can look at going forward. That is it for this agenda item. Thank you for anybody who came on just for that agenda item. You're more than welcome to stay on for the rest of the meeting, but that will be it for the PSA 4 agenda item for tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for coming on. Much appreciated. All right, so we're going to move to the next item on our agenda, which is planning for the outdoor dining in Chinatown core. I believe Wellington Chen and of the Chinatown bit and Jan Lee are on. Jan, I know you're going to give a presentation in a few minutes. I'm going to start with Wellington first. Wellington, is there anything you wanted to present first on this specific item?
No, thank you for inviting me tonight. I'm here to listen and to see if there's anything I can help address. Thanks.
Sure, that's great. Thank you. So Jen, that means I'm going to pivot right to you. I know you sent the office and myself some emails, and thank you for our brief email introduction the other night. Did you need to share your screen if that's possible? Did you want to share your screen? Was there a presentation attached?
For now, I'll just read off and we'll see how much time we have before we go into photos. Can you hear me okay, Paul?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Transportation Committee. We want to thank you for crafting a resolution last month and the careful consideration that you have shown in trying to include as much detail as possible. We want to also thank you for carving out this time to report to you what we've been doing as a block association in response to the mayor's plan for street use as we deal with the pandemic environment as it is today and beyond. We've partnered with a few community groups, community organizations that have been working tirelessly in the community. Among them are representatives from Welcome to Chinatown and Think Chinatown. They're with us on this call tonight, so if you have questions, you feel free to ask them. As well as some of the members of our own block association, they're with us tonight, and I see some sister block organizations from the Lower East Side and downtown area. Welcome to Chinatown has started a survey which includes businesses, residents, and patrons to Chinatown. The purpose of the survey was to get an assessment of the popularity and problems regarding street seating in the Chinatown core. The folks from Welcome to Chinatown are available on the call if you have any questions about this survey, but excuse me, keep in mind that the survey's just started and it is a work in progress. Although the survey is not complete, we'll be presenting the data to the committee at a later date. The Chinatown Core Block Association plans to reach out to social service providers in the community to hopefully access a sector of our community that traditionally is very difficult to get information from in terms of surveys about whether or not they like the street seating, how they use it, how there may be possible issues that they have with the street seating arrangements, and particularly how they use the streets. We want to really get to the bottom of how they actually use the neighborhood streets and how their lives have changed for better or worse since this new arrangement. Some of the groups that we plan to reach out to is Chinese American Planning Council, Hamilton Madison House, as well as UA3, which is our local food pantry, which gives out thousands and thousands of bags of groceries a week, and they have direct access to homebound seniors. So that's an exciting part of our survey that we want to embark upon. Tonight, we're excited to present to the committee what we feel is a response to the resolution that you guys have crafted and proposals that have been presented to us in the past. We are calling on the city council members' office to include within their office an ombudsman, which would be responsible for answering residents and businesses and stakeholders' questions regarding anything having to do with street seating, and to help facilitate efficient communication between the agencies. I think as we had seen from the town hall and as you guys had deliberated last month, it seems as though there's a lot of agencies that we are left to navigate as individuals, but also as businesses. And if you couple that with language difficulties, it gets even more complicated. And I think that that's where we would like to have a singular person charged with local knowledge. And we feel that the council member's office should have a person set aside specifically for this, which will also be able to interface in language appropriate communication. They would also have hyperlocal knowledge of the streets of the district. We feel that the office can be an education wing of all the agencies. They would also be able to keep up with the ever-changing regulations, because what is a regulation that started in March of 2020 has since changed in March of 2021. Presumably, these are going to change as the months go on. We want to work together with the Ombudsman to create an atmosphere that enhances both the residents' and visitors' experiences while continuing to educate the business about these changes and the difficult regulations that they have to work within. We feel strongly that no temporary seating arrangement really should be made permanent while we do not yet know what the transportation issues may arise, as our narrow streets and sidewalks in Chinatown experience increased traffic compared to our pandemic situation that we're in now. One only needs to think about the warming months, the fact that we have an ever increasing number of people being vaccinated. And so the foot traffic in, say December is going to be very different than the foot traffic we have in June and July and August and September coming. So we don't want the city to make rash decisions based on our traffic patterns down here in Chinatown until we get a better understanding of how we're going to deal with the big volume of people and cars and Uber and all of the other things that neighborhoods have to deal with ordinarily. I'll stop here. I'll pause here, Paul, if you have questions or any of the committee members have questions. And I'll also like to offer the opportunity for Think Chinatown or Welcome to Chinatown to chime in, or anyone from the Block Association.
You said the partners with Think Chinatown and who else? I'm sorry.
Welcome to Chinatown.
Okay. Did they want to add anything right now before I pivoted to questions from the committee?
Hi, Dominic from Welcome to Chinatown here. Nothing to add currently.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, so thank you, Jan. I actually had you penciled in for 15 minutes. I think you went a little underneath that. It's okay.
I can add a little bit just to drill down on some of the details that we presented to the committee regarding how we feel that this position as an ombudsman within the council member's office can be very powerful. It enables community residents, businesses, and even visitors to Chinatown the accountability of a singular person, so that we have somebody that we can always hold accountable if things are going south. You know, we've all experienced different levels of success in the street seating arrangements as they are now. Also, if the council member's ombudsman is doing a terrific job, we feel that that would reflect well on the council member. So obviously that person would probably be elected in again. So these are things that we find important: transparency, accountability, and also a centralized person that can interface with both the Business Improvement District, the community board, the block associations, the businesses, and most importantly with the agencies. So as the changes occur and as people give feedback, this centralized person will have one thing to do regarding streets and sidewalk use, so that everyone's experience is really enhanced. We want to create an atmosphere that moves away from being punitive all the time. I think everyone, particularly in this committee and also the economic committees and small business, never want to see us adding to the hardship of small businesses. We want to be able to give them time to understand the law, also the time to have an amnesty period and work within this framework before we move to just doing a blitz and sending people possibly into foreclosure with the last few dollars they have. So with that, I'll end here and I'll take any of your questions.
Yeah, I can also add quickly to that, Jan. I also find it important as an organization supporting restaurants in Chinatown with their outdoor builds. Definitely clarity and information is important, but I think a bigger key is avoiding fines, which can be quite steep, and also forced closures, which has devastating impacts even for a few days. So having someone within the community to be able to be a part of the process could avoid these sorts of fines and violations. I see Susan has her hand.
Go ahead, Susan. You're on mute. Susan, you're on mute.
She's totally muted.
Okay, I'm sorry. I keep thinking something should work that doesn't. I'm going to thank you both for, I appreciate your comments. And I kind of wish that this one ombudsman person could work. It would make my life a lot easier. But unfortunately, City Council office doesn't have leverage with the agencies. I can't tell you how hard they are working right now, and you know, they help me and I work with them to try and make things happen. The problem is only the mayor's office can make the agencies do anything. That's the problem. The city council, unless they pass legislation, and even then, there's lots of legislation out there. And I mean, you're talking about these fines. I'm trying to help someone right now that just got $1,000 fine that was outrageous. They didn't do anything wrong. And, you know, I'm going to say again, I wish our council offices could do something, but this is the mayor's office, and they're the ones that have to do this. They are not even allowing the agencies to be more helpful. So you got to look at where the problem comes from.
Well, I think that we were intending to have this person also have a number of different roles specific to the street use and sidewalk experience, as well as we move out of the pandemic. We need a centralized person that can take in the information and be that person that we could rely on to get the information to the council member, who in turn could work with other council members to create the legislation to make this really effective. So what we're actually looking for, once we have this moving from draft form into its final form, is Community Board 3's support on creating this this person. And I think that the feedback that we've got from other Chinatown community organizations, as well as some of the community organizations and block associations in southern Manhattan, the southern part of the district rather, is pretty widespread support for its creation. So we would like to finalize this with the work of other block associations, and we hope to be able to propose it to the community board for support.
The community board's resolution did ask for this to be centralized, but it was under Margaret Forgione at DOT.
Okay. If anybody has any other questions, we'd be
Yeah,
happy.
so I'm gonna start pivoting to the committee for questions. I did have a question about the data. I know you had that survey out that you mentioned before. When do you think you'll have all the data compiled by? Is there a deadline? Is there a stoppage to that survey? And when do you think you'll be able to share that data with the office?
I'm gonna ask Dominic to weigh in, but one of the things that we really want to capture is the experience of our senior community, and the way that we're going to have to do that is to work within our social service providers. So to some degree, if it takes a little longer, we're willing to take a little longer with this. If it takes a month or two to really capture that important data, we feel that it's worth the time spent. So it's not going to be next week. It may not even be next month, but we hope to do as much as we can. And I know that Welcome to Chinatown has language translation ability as well as a robust social media presence. So we're going to try our best to capture that very important group. As far as the English language and the tourist and patron experience, I think that we have no problem in capturing that. One of the big hurdles, and if Yin or Dominic wants to correct me, feel free, but I think one of the biggest hurdles is going to capture that senior experience and how they feel about this.
Right, yeah, just really seconding everything that Jan says. We definitely do find that it's much easier to find that sort of consumer outside, person who views the Chinatown as a destination. That kind of opinion is very accessible, tends to be more engaged on the internet, whereas, reaching these sort of more senior populations in Chinatown, it's going to take longer, and, it's important that their needs are taken into account.
I also want to not leave out the bid and their role in helping us collect data. We've looked at the data that they've accumulated since last March. I know that the bid has an ongoing roster of businesses that are going out of business and the businesses that are still in business. And so we would be interacting with them, of course. One of the difficult things is when businesses either go out of business or they find that they don't need to have their street seating anymore. We're finding more and more spaces that are just abandoned and neglected, which causes trash to collect in them. It causes graffiti. It causes a proliferation of graffiti. And it also takes up valuable parking and delivery space, as well as ambulance access and accessoride. So I noted that you guys had addressed that in the resolution. So we're very happy that you guys were so granular in your approach to crafting that resolution. And it's just great to see it memorialized in that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
It was a big resolution to get off the ground. So I know in terms of the challenges of reaching out to your senior population, in terms of the data, in your emails, you basically conveyed you want to present this for a resolution from us at some point. So I guess we're going to wait on that data, and maybe May or June is something we can circle. Is that all right, Jan?
Yes.
Susan.
I don't think we have time because this becomes permanent in September. That means they need to finalize all this in city council way before then. We got caught blindsided by the fact that this was made permanent before we even knew this was happening. So I don't feel like we have that much time to get this information in.
Well, we'll try our best. If you can give us a time frame that you think would be ideal, Susan. And I want to we appreciated you pulling together the block associations a few weeks ago to really drill down on some of this data. What we've done since then is created this and also the survey. So if you can think about an ideal timeline to get that, we would try to meet that as best we can.
So I don't know more than you do, except this is what I know. The executive order expires at the end of September. The permanent order, the permanent legislation takes place at the end of September. So everything will be finalized before then. I don't know that it'll all be finalized in August. I would suspect that there's going to be hearings and stuff before that. So the committee may have to, we've done our main resolution, so they may have to be doing all of this piecemeal, keep sending in more and more. But the more we can have, whenever they have testimony, whenever they have hearings, the more we can all go to those hearings with, and the community board can only testify on what we voted on. So that's the situation now. You know as much as I do.
Understood. Thank you.
So Susan, my question will be, if you're able to get more data for us, I would like to put it in April. This seems more like a May item for some reason, based on what we've heard here tonight. I would aim for May for us, if that's possible. Yeah. Okay. Committee, any other questions? Or not any other questions? I'm opening it up to the committee. Go right ahead.
Just have a comment here. I think it's pretty ironic that we're seeing how much work this is taking, and wouldn't it be nice if we had someone with a role dedicated to this work?
Does the committee have any questions for Jan or for any other representatives? Okay, I'll take a few questions from the community if they have any questions for Jan and anyone else on the call.
I didn't see any people in the chat, but and I don't see any hands.
Yeah, I don't see any hands either.
Wellington has his hand up.
Wellington,
Yeah.
Wellington, go right ahead.
Yeah, just some background information so that you can render a proper decision, so that you know, as Susan said correctly, the basic is you have 3 branches of the government, and obviously City Council is the legislative side. And so the enforcement and the implementation side is from City Hall and the city administration. There's no question about that. Otherwise, we'll be barking up the wrong trees. The thing, we started out long ago with a simple suggestion, and that is not even to do with, you know, the 10,000 restaurants that each put up their sidewalk and says, can I apply? Can I do this? We said that if you're going to send out inspectors, each one from one agency, for example, DEP, Fire Department, DOT, DOB. Currently, all 4 inspectors can come onto the same merchant and issue violations or summonses, right? So our request was very simple. Before you send out an inspector, can you have all 4 agencies receive the same training? So it's the same set of guidelines that you are looking at, so that we can anticipate, the merchant can anticipate walking in, which item, which angle are you going to be coming at. But if not, at least there's a clear understanding that my merchant should not be getting 3 different inspections and getting $3,000 in fine. I have, you know, and that is not just about outdoor seating, that applies to the COVID-19, the safety plan, the disinfectant log, the form, that my 3,000 businesses, if each one get $1,000 in fine, it's $3 million. As simple as that. So the request was very, very basic. Can we have a central coordination, at least in terms of enforcement, that can save, just in Chinatown alone, potentially thousands and thousands of dollars and a lot of headaches, as Susan just found out. And sometimes many merchants came out and just say, I had the safety plan. You gave me the form, I put it there, but the cashier didn't know about it. We didn't post it out there. I got a summons for $1,000, right? So
exactly.
Right. Exactly. So that's what I'm talking about.
The porter who doesn't speak English didn't know about it.
Exactly. And so our advice is that then we play catch up. We say, we go into the 1,700 stores on the ground floor and just say, make sure when you fill out the safety plan, put it nearby the cash register. So when the inspector walk in, you just point your finger at it and just say, it's there. And so these are the practical issues. And so as to the numbers, my concern right now is correct. And I think this is where, you know, we are seeing a lot of discarded outdoor seating because more restaurants are going to fold. 1/3 of the 240,000 small businesses are in jeopardy. So that translates to about 76,000 stores. And so for us, it's about how do we anticipate. So right now, a lot of restaurants are hanging on is because they are doubling up. The restaurant that closes sending their customers to them. I don't see, at least we track a lot of indices. I don't see a massive flood of people coming back anytime soon. the number the differential is so drastic. You are almost at near 50% level. So unless, and the clear indications are, it will be 2023 at the earliest that you will approach somewhere near the 2019 level. So we're not expecting a lot of numbers coming back unless there's all of a sudden you open the international JFK floodgate and just say 67 million tourists is going to reappear anytime soon. If anything, I think we need to have this dialogue. I think everyone is playing catch up. The rules are all of a sudden thrown in from all agencies. And I pity the agencies as well, because they're given very short time to having to implement something that they don't know the answer either. So I'm glad Jan is organizing this, and I'm glad there's a dialogue, but there's a lot of work to do, and we are in this together. And so there's not going to be an easy solution, but obviously the idea of an ombudsman from the city administration that can coordinate a central mandate, that would be very, very helpful. There's no question about that.
I do want to offer, though, that there is a precedent for this, that small property owners regularly contact an ombudsman working in the department, working as an extension of the Department of Finance. And so the Department of Finance doesn't have a number where you just pick up the phone and call someone in the Department of Finance. That is not available to you. So an ombudsman's office will patiently work with you to understand your situation and work with you to figure out, particularly in these times, how to figure out your financial situation moving forward. And so I can tell you as a property owner that this is an enhancement that we use regularly. It doesn't cost us any money. And this is an example of how this person can navigate what is ordinarily off limits to the average person. And so I know that Susan does a lot of work within the community board that may overlap with this, and so does the bid. But we are looking for an accountability of a person that is a more holistic approach other than just staving off fines. That's one thing that I think that legislatively, their council member can certainly bring to the entire council. So if we find that in this community, people are unjustly fined, then we can legislatively take care of that fairly expeditiously. So I think we have to look at this position as being a holistic and not just something that falls flat once they can't fix a fine. So that's how we're approaching this. It has gotten a lot of positive feedback, and I'm very, very cognizant of your comments, and we really value, and that's why we're here, is to understand your points of view. So we will take that into consideration, and thank you very much for those comments.
Yeah, and just if I may, just to take that one step further, what Jan said, for those of you that have been in New York a little bit longer, you'll remember Paul Dwyer. Paul Dwyer was the ombudsman. The city used to have, right? The city used to have an ombudsman office. And so it may be, if this is what the community board and the community deem is necessary, restore that office, provided there's budget for it.
All right, Susan, and then I believe Councilmember Chin's office.
Okay, just to speak to those comments. So Jan, the example you gave was someone working within the agency to work within the agency, and that does work because it's within the agency, and so they have weight to make it happen. That's very different from a legislative branch begging, which happens every day. You have no idea about fines, monitoring, whatever. The examples you gave are absolutely correct. It's just that that's not, and it's not whether it should work, it's just not the way it can work. As far as the ombudsman's office, that's creating another office, which we're not going to do by September. It probably, I don't know if that would require a charter revision. It might, but certainly we need something better than exists by the end of September.
Okay, Ian Chan, am I saying that correctly, Ian? Or is it Ian?
That's correct. That's Ian. Hi, this
Okay.
is Ian from Councilmember Michael Chin's office. So that's, I think I heard the mayor's special enforcement unit said that all the city agencies that are enforcing are supposed to receive the same training, but you all saw what happened. You know, the same training doesn't mean that they understand the issue with the same knowledge. So I think to go beyond that, one oversight agency is, you know, it should be important. It should be a key point in that resolution. Thank you.
Okay. Lee, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Okay, go ahead.
All this conversation about needing an ombudsman, and Jan's mention about really how it has to be a micro level for each community makes perfect sense. And then somebody else made the comment about Paul Dwyer. I have to remind everybody, I think we're all forgetting something. We have an ombudsman. They're just not doing their job. The public advocate, I'm reading from their webpage, serves as an ombudsman for city government, providing oversight for city agencies, investigating citizens' complaints about city services and making proposals to address perceived shortcomings or failures of those services. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the ombudsman. We just need to tell Jumani's office that they need to do this, and that infrastructure is there already. I think somebody just needs to tell them to please help immediately.
All right, Susan.
Again, they're an elected official. They have no jurisdiction whatsoever. They really can't make the agency do anything. They can do audits, they can issue reports, and they do issue reports. But other than that, they can't make anyone do anything.
Except they can if they wanted to. It's in the charter, and I'm not saying that we should not try to get an ombudsman at the city council level for each member. We absolutely should. But until then, until we can do that, until that can be accomplished, let's all remind Jumani's office that he currently has this role, and please help us all.
Well, I would also add, Lee, that the public advocate's office is the only office that's allowed to sue the city. So they do have they can do that. That is a powerful thing that is not used enough. We're going this route because we feel that the public advocate's office year after year, time after time, is a stepping stone to a higher office, and so it really has been very ineffective. And so that's why we as a community are coming up with more creative solutions to solve this issue. But I agree with you about the hyper-local representation. Thank you.
All right. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm thinking around. Go ahead, Lee.
I would suggest that as part of any resolution that we sign on to, that we make sure that part of that resolution has that we are asking the public advocate to fulfill their role.
Sure, I think that's something we're going to be thinking about down the line. There's no resolution for this item here tonight. I think it's a lot of information gathering on our end, and to start this process out from our side of it. Any other questions from the committee, even the community? Because if not, then I'll wrap this item up, and I will ask, maybe we can aim for May, Jan, if that's all right, Wellington.
No, just thank you for inviting us here tonight. Just to answer Lisa Bergman's question, I think the Susan's point is in a way correct, because the public advocate's office have very little enforcement power, and also the budget and resources allocated to them is rather severely limited. So it's not that they didn't try. When Letitia James was the public advocate, she tried on some issue, but she ended up dealing with a lot of tenant harassment issues and that type of thing. So yeah, you're correct. Thank you for reminding us that the ombudsman has evolved into public advocate. But the most effective way is really about from the administration side that somebody, for lack of a better word, should be the czar. That is where people will pay attention, just say, this is the rule, this is what you do, this is what we're going to abide by, no confusion. You don't need 10,000 different instructions for 10,000 outdoor restaurants. If more opens up, that even God help us, we have 20,000 restaurants. So, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, committee.
Thank you. So I'll close this item up for tonight because I don't think I see any other questions or comments. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Wellington, and anybody else who came on for this item. And I hope to see you back in May, at least. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next agenda item. Transportation alternatives. I believe they brought this to our attention in January, correct, Susan? If I'm about
I
the
don't remember.
okay, all right, there's a shot. It's the request for support to Fix Canal. Am I correct? I believe Jason Gers. Is it Gers or Gers? I don't know if I screw that up all the time.
It's Gers, and Adrian is gonna take the lead here and presenting.
Sure. They can start. You guys can start with your presentation, then we'll go from there.
Adrian, are you there?
Your sound's not working or your volume's not working. Can't hear you at all.
How about this?
There we go.
Okay, great. Am I able to share a presentation or a screen?
I just made you a co-host.
You should be able to share now, Adrian. There you go.
Okay, can you see my screen now? Okay, great. My name's Adrian Mack. I'm a resident of downtown and a volunteer with Transportation Alternatives. And thank you, CB3, for allowing me and the rest of our crew to present tonight. Here to talk about Canal Street. Whoops. Here's a quote from Margaret Chin. The enormous amount of traffic on Canal Street is a public health crisis. And this is really not a crisis that should exist in the era of Vision Zero. This is from an op-ed that she wrote in 2019. So what is Canal Street? If you think about it, Canal Street is 7 highway-sized lanes of traffic in between some of America's most historic and walkable neighborhoods, like Chinatown, Little Italy, Soho, Tribeca, Civic Center. And basically you have all these neighborhoods with really great and vibrant pedestrian foot traffic. But you have sidewalks on Canal Street that are very limited and very congested. So that's why we're here to talk to you about Canal Street today. People are getting injured on Canal Street. Crossing the street is dangerous because of the 7 lanes. Vehicles often block the crosswalk and the intersection and ignore the NYPD traffic agents that are there. Between the bridge and the tunnel, there were about 2 crashes a day between 2016 and 2019 on a 1-mile segment of street. And there were also serious injuries and traffic deaths during the same period. As you can see, pedestrians, motor vehicle occupants, and cyclists all have been injured on this street. It's also a bad environment for business. It's hard to receive deliveries for businesses. It's frustrating. It costs them money. Now that we have outdoor dining that's been made permanent, having a highway in the middle of the city is really inhospitable to a pleasant outdoor dining environment. It's tough for pedestrians who want to visit the businesses on Canal Street. They're fighting with the huge crowds. And there's also conflicts with street vendors who want to provide service to the people in the community. And really, it's a question of fairness. At peak hours, there's 3 times as many pedestrians as there are motor vehicles. But motor vehicles get up to 90% of the street space, 80 to 90% of the street space on Canal Street. So it really seems like there may be a misallocation of the space on Canal. So what are some solutions for these problems? So there's been multiple traffic studies that have been implemented on Canal. That have been studied on Canal Street and not been implemented. Going back to 2000, there was a study done in 2010 to 2011, CATS 2, which recommended left turn restrictions along much of Canal Street because vehicle left turns are very likely to lead to death or serious injury when compared to right turns. There was a study on Hudson Square, which said we should widen crosswalks, improve the intersections, and improve access for buses. And there's also a lot of improvements from around the city that are really proven that DOT has in their toolkit, and we could ask them to implement. And these include things like wider sidewalks, like painted extensions, neck downs to shorten crossing distances, and leading pedestrian intervals at lights so that pedestrians get a head start. And this is really important in this area because a lot of seniors live in Canal Street. We heard from, live in the area of Canal Street. We heard from the medical center, the Charles B. Wang Medical Center. There's a lot of seniors that receive services there. And it's a lot tougher for them to cross a street that is so wide and dangerous. There's also other things in the DOT toolkit, things like increasing commercial loading zones, because basically when businesses don't have a place to unload, they double park, and that creates more dangerous conditions for everybody on the street. We could also set aside designated space for street vendors, as well as protected bicycle lanes to allow safe crosstown travel from the bridge to Tribeca and the Hudson River Greenway. And the bike lanes don't necessarily need to be on Canal Street itself. It could be on a parallel street. We have the Gateway to Chinatown project, which is the little triangle at Canal, Baxter, and Walker Street. There's opportunities here to free up space taken by cars and or parking. When you think about the Open Streets program, there could be potential there. But this triangle is very inhospitable to pedestrians because you essentially have traffic on 3 sides. 2 other important things that one already has happened and one is on its way. In December 2020, they reinstated 2-way tolling on the Verrazano Bridge. And so that is going to reduce the amount of trucks that are going into lower Manhattan to avoid tolls. And in addition, congestion pricing is coming. We don't know exactly when, but we know that de Blasio and Pete Buttigieg are working very hard on that at the moment. And so that will also reduce substantially the traffic coming across the Manhattan Bridge. So right now on the Manhattan Bridge, what you have is on the upper level, 2 Brooklyn-bound lanes and 2 Manhattan-bound lanes. And then on the lower level, you've got 3 Manhattan-bound car lanes. And really with those 2 changes happening, that gives you an opportunity to rethink what you can use those lanes for. So a more equitable allocation of those lanes may be something like bus rapid transit, more capacity for bikes, more space for pedestrians even. We could have summer streets on the bridge, which would be a really unique and interesting use of the space. In the plaza leading off of the bridge, there's a lot of opportunities. if we rethink the space. We could have a bus rapid transit lane and station. There's plaza space that could be given to pedestrians, and also connections to either bike lanes or bikeways in the area. And here's another drawing with bus rapid transit on the lower level of the bridge and a station and gardens in the plaza of the Manhattan Bridge opening. There's also some opportunities to improve safety and quality of life on East Canal, east of the bridge. So there's open street restaurants. The Seward Park public space could be extended. They could finish the Pike and Allen Street Mall and possibly a protected bike lane as well to connect to the Manhattan Bridge bike lanes. And if we don't act, especially as we start to recover from coronavirus, here's some of the things that happened prior to coronavirus. People were severely injured or fatally struck on Canal Street. And as the foot traffic returns, as we recover from coronavirus, this is going to start happening again if there's no action. And the community wants to fix Canal. Margaret Chin published an op-ed in September 2019. Community boards 1 and 2 passed resolutions to fix Canal in March and December. The council member also wrote a letter to DOT in August asking for a fix. And we've been trying to get it fixed for decades. And so I think this is the time to act. And so to close, Margaret Chin said the city can act today and do things that dramatically improve safety. And none of the safety improvements that are being asked for require capital investment. We just need DOT to act. So it's really time to put pedestrians first. So we hope that CB3 you'll join us in fixing Canal Street. And thank you very much for your time. And also we have a member from Families for Safe Streets, Catherine Lepp, who would also like to share her personal story.
Go ahead, Catherine, if you're on.
Hello, thank you for having me here as a member of Families for Safe Streets and an advocate for victims of street violence. I became a member of Families for Safe Streets and an advocate for victims not long after the fatal crash on Canal Street that killed my husband, Ray Dieter, in June 2011. So nearly 10 years ago, Ray, a tall, healthy man in his prime, was cycling to work at 5:30 on a clear, sunny day in June when he was hit by a car at West Broadway and Canal Street, a notorious intersection. The car hit Ray at such a speed that he was thrown off his large frame bike. He hit the car's windscreen, bounced on its roof before landing on his head in the street. Most bones were broken on the left side of his body with severe trauma to his head. He was in a coma for a week, unable to recover from the impact before he passed away on our 21st wedding anniversary, leaving 2 teenage sons, Maxwell, 16, and Jake, 19, to cope with such a massive loss. His passing left a void in our lives, as you can imagine, and his business was destroyed and devastated our community. The driver at the time was heading east across Canal Street, and in his own approximation in his DMV testimony, at around 35 miles an hour or so. The driver's speed and this crash are preventable, principally through street design and traffic calming measures. And I would greatly like to see these things implemented in the new design for Canal Street so that this doesn't happen to anybody else. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Catherine, and my condolences on passing. I don't know if anybody else wanted to present. That was a daydream, right?
That's it.
Okay, so my question for you is, as I open up for the committee to start asking questions, you said CB1 and CB2 passed resolutions to support this this project, correct?
That's correct. CB1 in March 2020 and CB2 in December 2020.
So CB2 relatively recently, CB1 prior to the, well, right before a year ago this month. Okay. And has there been any movement after those resolutions were passed?
There has not. Councilmember Chen's office has contacted DOT multiple times, and they have not seen very much movement from DOT. So we're trying to build as much support from the community and different community boards so that DOT can't ignore us.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to invite the committee to ask any questions at this point before we think about looking at a draft resolution. Lee, did you have any questions from before?
Yes.
Go ahead, Lee. Go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for everybody who presented. My first question is, and I don't know if Jan Lee is still here, but what outreach did you guys do, Adrian and Transportation Alternative, to local organizations? For example, Wellington Chan, Jan Lee, the social agencies that he had mentioned, the Benevolence Association, because so much of this, especially on the east end of this, does involve local residents, the struggling businesses, and will affect them in a variety of ways. So if you can answer that one first.
Yeah, I think Jason might be able to speak to the outreach.
Yeah, sure. Or Paul, if you want to jump in as well. We've spoken to a number of groups. We spoke just this week to Charles Wang Health Center. We spoke to the Lower East Side bid, which does, abut East Canal there. We've spoken to a couple other neighborhood groups here on the east side, focused specifically on CB3. And we've definitely reached out to, Wellington and CCBA and a few other folks, and maybe trying to, get an audience with him in, Chinese New Year season was a little tricky, but I don't know if he's still on, but I would love to set up a meeting with him for sure. We haven't, it's not for lack of trying.
I appreciate.
Lee, you're on mute if you're trying to say something.
Paul, I would ask Jan if you're prepared to discuss. I don't know if you've had a chance to see this. I would certainly like to know what your position is, the members of your organization, how they feel about this, as well as if you could tell us what outreach has been done to the wider community, if you're aware.
Paul, would you like me to answer that?
Yeah, go right ahead, Jan. That's fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. I did receive one email. It's a matter of, there's a few things going on, Lee. The holidays was one of the issues that was raised, but also it's a matter of bandwidth. We have a number of extraordinary groups in Chinatown that have worked very, very closely on the ground. As you heard in the previous segment, that we're going to be working with seniors to understand their concerns. Traditionally, even for us Chinese Americans, that is a group of people who are difficult to access, but very important. And I know that for a nationally recognized group like Transportation Alternatives, this kind of really granular, on the ground, door-to-door type of surveying is difficult for you guys to do. If it's difficult for us, it's going to be very hard for you guys. but it is a matter of bandwidth, and it's not for lack of wanting to look at the details of your plan. It's literally the fact that we have so much going on. We have also business and property owners that are literally on a knife's edge right now. And so Wellington Chen would attest to this. We have people who are really balancing the future of their lives. The restaurant owners are balancing the future of their staff and families. And so there's a matter of different priorities. I would add that, you know, the east side of Canal Street has been problematic for years. And I understand and appreciate the expressing what happened to that unfortunate man who was hit by a car. But I do want to express to you guys, we've had many people hit by cars at the entrance of the Manhattan Bridge. And we didn't have any backup. We didn't have people there to advocate for us. The then Department of Transportation Commissioner, despite the fact that we had lots of push to try to get someone to recognize that, did not come. So I add that there's many areas that are problematic that didn't get any attention on this. I would hope that that specific area is a real focus, because we've had lots of people hospitalized and in comas over the years. So we will look at it. It's a matter of the bandwidth of what we have as a group and how we can partner with our other groups who are also trying to do fundraising and everything that they need to do to survive as well. So I'll just leave it there, Paul.
Paul, I would just ask, listen, I think we would all agree this is critically important. And I'm really grateful for this presentation. And some of this information is news to me. I, however, would suggest that all the stakeholders be as involved as possible, or be asked for their feedback before we go ahead with some of these portions of the resolutions that can affect, for example, businesses, which is, as Jan just mentioned, are teetering on the edge. Because I want to know what the impact on everybody will be. So my request would just be to if more outreach can be done over the next, whether month or two, I would prefer that. And then with that feedback, personally would feel more comfortable voting on the resolution as is. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Lee. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a suggestion to make as one of the organizations that, was outreach to. I did receive an email, thank you. But as Jan was saying, there are a lot of things we're juggling right now, and we are in emergency survival mode. I would suggest that you have very concrete asks of us that are, if you think about like how much time we have to respond, because instead we got like, this is kind of our plan. You want to talk about it? And it's like, no, I don't have time to talk about it. But if you have something very specific, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I'll just say quickly, thanks everyone for the feedback. We see outreach as sort of a long-term project and connecting with a broad range of voices and community members. So thanks everyone for the input there.
Okay, so let's start. If there's any other questions from the committee? So, any questions from the community? I'll take a few questions from the community before we think about potentially adopting or making a motion to adopt.
Please put your hands up in Zoom if you're here to speak on this item.
I don't see any hands. I know my Zoom's acting up a little bit today. Michelle, do you see any hands?
No.
Okay. Does anybody want to make, I did send out a potential draft resolution to the committee last night. I know Lee was just referring to it. Is there a motion to put this on the floor?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Yes.
All right. Michelle, do you have it? Can you pull it up if possible? I know you're eating. Sorry. Take that
Sorry, I
scoop.
couldn't wait. No, I pull it up.
Take the scoop down. Give me a sec.
I could pull it up.
Wendy, do you have it? Go ahead, Wendy. Wendy, I'm sorry. I still put Michelle. Go ahead, Wendy. Pull it up. Sorry,
It's all
Michelle.
good.
It would be better to have a version up that we could edit if necessary, if there were amendments.
Wendy, you're a co-host, so you should be able to pull it up now.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wendy is yes, Wendy. Sorry. Thank you.
All right. Can everyone see?
Give it a second. Okay, that is an editable version. All right.
Is this version the same as the ones passed by other community boards?
Susan, you're still on the line, right? I do believe this is a combination of CB1s and CB2 or similar.
No, this is the one the transportation alternatives sent to us with just some language changes, but no content changes. So these are all the things that they would like us to consider.
And just for clarity, I did add some things specific to CB3 area, such as the mouth of the bridge and the East Canal.
Yeah, so this is what TA was asking us to support.
Okay, Jason, just a quick question. The CB1 and CB2s look extremely similar.
That was the starting point, yes.
Okay. All right, so Ellen, I don't know if that answers your question. Is there any? Lee, did you want to make a motion on something?
I might want to. I guess I thought that my last comment may have been informally, or maybe I should make it a formal motion to table this resolution until more outreach is done to those stakeholders that I mentioned. I don't feel comfortable discussing this at this point without that stakeholder input. So I would leave that up to the committee as to how to proceed.
All right, we have a motion to table this resolution until further outreach, correctly?
Correct.
So this is just as parliamentarian here. I don't believe this is a motion to table. I think the intent is to postpone it until a different time. Is that correct? Because a table is not debatable. So it has no conditions on it. Okay, so to postpone it until what stakeholder groups are you recommending, or would you recommend? Would make you feel comfortable?
For example, the benevolent associations, the three organizations that Jan mentioned, the Wellington Chan's organization. There's a whole host of organizations out there that do hold heavy sway in the community that have apparently not had an opportunity yet to speak on this. Listen, they may offer additional suggestions or may have some reservations about portions of this, but I think it's important to have those voices in.
Can I ask, so there has been no discussion with those organizations for the past years that this has been an effort by TA or the other groups?
I mean, in the case of Wellington Chen, for example, I think we've reached out to him 3 times. We've, had Lower East Side bid even try to open the door with him. I don't think he's on the call anymore. We are very eager to speak with the Chinatown bid, with CCBA, etc. With Yin and Think Chinatown, I think we might even have something scheduled, or we might have had something scheduled at one point. But as was said by Jan and Yin, this may not be their most important priority at the moment.
Excuse me.
And though not their most important priority at the moment, it is certainly, as they mentioned, it is important to them. And again, I would hate to put something in this that, 2 months from now or 3 months from now, hopefully when they have that bandwidth, or when there's more outreach is done, they say, well, this resolution could wind up damaging businesses, or here's something that could have been put in to further assist the community. So I'll leave it.
Ellen, you had your hand up.
Is there a time sensitivity to this resolution? Is there a reason why it needs to be passed, or is there like a goal or a deadline or a timeline that we need to be aware of?
Jason, I'll pass that to you.
I mean, what's time sensitive in my view is that it's a safety issue that's ongoing. I mean, if we're dealing with 2 crashes a day, that's something that we don't want to see continue. And if CB3 is also going on the record here, we hope that would put further pressure on the DOT to actually take some action. Some of the things that we're suggesting, I hope or believe are not very controversial, which is to say, making this a more pedestrian-friendly environment, expanding sidewalks, slowing the speed of traffic, and coincident with two-way tolling on the Verrazano Bridge and congestion pricing, which may be only 12 months away or something from going into effect. It is timely, if not urgent.
I could say that this is not actually supporting a particular design or any design that exists. It calls for efforts to build a design. The language in the therefore, if you might scroll down, or things like the creation of a plan supports, and that as part of that plan, it should include these: encourages DT seriously consider removing lanes, recommend they design and implement a suitable bike lane. All of that activity would be a long design project, which would be an expensive thing for DOT to do. And that is the most appropriate time to be getting input from, from stakeholders. I think that we should, I don't see a reason to delay this at all.
Could I say something, please? Hello?
Who's that talking?
This is Andrea Peterson. I'm one of the people that are involved with this Fix Canal. I just have it.
Paul, we're debating a motion that's on the floor.
Yeah, can you give us a second, please?
David,
Let's
do we need to do anything now? Do we need to call? Are we voting on this motion?
We are going to have to
Lee
vote
presented?
on the motion to postpone.
Okay, I want to call the question then.
Thank you. Wendy, so the vote is, if you're saying yes is to postponement, no is
actually call the question. You should poll and see how many people want to continue debate. Make sure that it's less than the majority.
Do we want to continue debate on the postponement?
Well, Paul, so I don't really see any issues with the content, and I don't, I would be surprised if Justin or anyone from, the Chamber of Commerce or CCPA would have an issue with the content of this resolution. However, it does mean something when you're talking about bridge building for a much larger plan to really reach out to this half of CB3 and where, people actually live and work, right, and run businesses. So it is prudent to reach out to this community who will be impacted.
This sounds like debate on. Okay.
So David, let me finish. So
I know, but I'm just saying that there's been a call to question, and we ought to decide if there are a majority of people who want to continue this debate before we allow the debate.
Well, I would like to continue this debate because I would like to finish.
You are one, Paul. How many of them are there who want to continue debate?
Only one right now.
That doesn't sound like a majority.
Does anybody else want to continue debate on the postponement of this agenda item? All right, so we need to take a vote on postponing this agenda item. Yes would be to postpone this agenda item. No would be to continue on with it tonight. Wendy, can you call out the vote?
Okay, 1 second.
Yep.
Okay, Paul,
No.
Michelle,
No.
Wendy, no. Lee Berman,
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes, you're postponing the item, or
Oh,
no?
I'm sorry. No. Oh my God.
It's one of those
people
days.
so much for
Say,
doing that
David.
exact thing. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Felicia? Oh no, Felicia's not here. Ellen?
Yes.
And is Tariq here?
Yes.
Oh, Tariq, you want to postpone the item, or you want to?
Postpone the item.
You want to postpone the item? That's what, 1, 2, 3?
3 yeses, 4 no's.
4 no's. Paul, Michelle, Wendy, David. 4-3, David? Is that what it sounds like?
Sound like, yeah.
Majority? All right. So we will keep debating. This item stays on. Okay. now we
Okay, can I
op-
say something about the overall resolution, if that's back on the floor?
Yeah, let's go back on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Wendy, for taking the vote. I agree with David that this does not have a specific proposal, and in fact, the outreach portion of it is what we're doing tonight. For the community board, at least, that's our job, is to host these sessions. It sounds like Transportation Alternatives has tried to do some as well, but that's not the community board's job, I guess, or, right, our job is to do this. The fact that CV1 and CV2 have already passed resolutions that are very similar to this gives me confidence that there is widespread support for something to happen here. And I can say from personal experience that Canal Street is a scourge. I already said that about local hall 11. I'll say it again for Canal Street. I've almost been run over by a cab making a left turn on Lafayette Street. I run across I avoid running, walking across the Manhattan Bridge mouth. I will avoid it at all costs. I think it's pretty clear to everyone that there needs to be something happening here. I don't think that this resolution has any super specific suggestions that would be not amenable. And I agree that if this comes to fruition, there will be a very extensive outreach portion because there's nothing specific in here. And lastly, I'll just wrap up by saying that the problems that we're having here on the Lower East Side, DOT is just ignoring us constantly. So I think that time is of the essence in that sense. The sooner that you can get started, the better of being a thorn in their side. I mean, they've already been trying to do this for a year and nothing's happened. So, one more point, and that Councilmember Chin supports it, who is the representative for the area. So that also gives me confidence that, there's support for this. So I will vote, I don't really even have any edits to this. So I'm going to vote yes on this resolution tonight.
Well, I would counter that with, there are recommendations in here to limit the number of lanes coming over the bridge, which can certainly affect the number of people coming into Chinatown specifically. There are mentions here specifically of reducing or eliminating parking. I want the community that's directly affected. I want those businesses who rely on people driving in from other Chinatowns and from other parts of the city and other states who visit and patronize those stores and those commercial entities. I want those commercial entities to have a say. And I think that without them at the table, we're doing a disservice to them. Again, I don't think anybody here is disagreeing that changes need to be made and safety needs to be implemented. However, everybody needs to be at the table, especially those most affected, who some of whom are hanging on, by a thread, as mentioned by Jan Lee, a community leader.
Okay, the first paragraph you mentioned, it says that we greatly encourage DOT to seriously consider removing one or more lanes of traffic. It's not quite the same way as saying there's a specific thing in here. I would love to maybe see you propose a further resolve that says that there should be extensive outreach done. Obviously, there should be extensive outreach done, during prior to a design proposal. I mean, it really is going to have to be a lot of stakeholders involved. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but I think that you should propose exact language to add to this. It would certainly not detract, it would enhance the resolution.
May, is that May Lee with her hand up?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not
May.
on the committee. But
Yeah.
But if you, can I comment?
You can comment, May, go ahead.
Okay, so, well, I'm on the board, but I'm also a Chinatown stakeholder, although more like a social service provider. And I'm sorry, I actually had to walk away while the presentation was being given, although I see the resolution right now and see a few of the provisions that I guess come from the presentation. And I would like to say that although Chinatown businesses, I know, are always concerned about, the cars being able to come in to deliver stuff and, and people being able to drive in, to use to patronize the businesses. The very same people and everybody in Chinatown always says also, there's too many cars in Canal Street, they're going too fast, there's a lot of pollution on Canal Street. So it's, so I think so I don't think it's necessarily what's here, I don't see as a contradiction to what the businesses are saying. And remember that Chinatown is in 3 community boards, 1, 2, and 3. So I don't know what 1 and 2 did, but part of Chinatown has been outreach too. So I actually haven't, I've only heard about this here for the first time. So, later on, I would like to talk to, as a community organization, also like to hear from transportation alternatives and what the full details of the proposal.
We'd love to meet with you.
Okay.
Thank you, May. Thank you, May. Okay. Any other comments? We'll start debating. I know there's a possible amendment, some extra language we want to add about reaching out for more outreach to the businesses, right there?
Yes.
Can we start working on that amendment in on the resolve clause? Let me know when you're ready.
Working on it now.
Okay.
I will also, I mean, I'm going to be for this in this form or with a reasonable addition. But I'm going to go ahead and criticize TA for not doing outreach and for saying such things as, I don't want to talk about it. I was surprised to see you come to us with anything tonight, and that's fabulous. I love TA, I really do. But for the last few years, you haven't done a lot of outreach like this, I'll just say. So go do it. You used to do it great. Thanks.
So any other any other comments so far? I know we're just waiting on the.
So Paul.
Yeah, Lee, go ahead.
Is what I was able to gather from David's recommendation. I would propose that we add the language that we urge extensive outreach be done by DOT and I don't know whomever else before any design work is done or proposed.
Do we add that near the beginning of this, or like should we?
I'm looking to slide that in.
Yeah. Should I scroll down more?
Scroll up from the beginning. Let's see from there. From the beginning of the resolves.
Okay.
It would be either the
say
first or
something?
the last. I was going to say it's the first or the last, be it further resolved. But therefore is calling that we support the creation of the plan. And I think we ought to say maybe stage 1 of development of this plan needs to include extensive community output or whatever phrase that you just said, Paul. The first stage or phase, an early activity in the creation of this plan must be substantial stakeholder involvement. Is this helpful to you, Lee?
Yes, I like that. Flip page.
Okay, so I'm reading that first one, and I think I may want that between. This is my opinion, between the first day of four and yeah, right there in that middle, right before CB3 also urged DOT to include as part. All right.
Because the rest of them are all different aspects of things that we're asking them to examine, right?
The CB3 asks transportation alternative.
No, let's ask DOT or other agencies involved in the creation of that plan.
I can't type in the.
They set things up with like lead agencies, so I suspect it would be DOT, but this is good of this plan. Yeah, two, and then you want to take him here, Lee, or want me to continue?
Perform extensive outreach to affected stakeholders.
Oh, hello. I thought
Can
I
you hear
lagged a
me?
little bit. Yes.
All right, repeat that, Lee.
To perform extensive outreach to affected stakeholders before design before design work is completed.
I like it. How about, can I further a minute to say potentially affected stakeholders in the surrounding community? All potential, right?
Perfect.
Like the stakeholders in the
surrounding community. Yeah, I think that, you know, we're telling, look, reach out broadly. And by saying potentially, you know, they're going to think this through. But we're telling them to, yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking about this a little too much. Do we want to say completed? It almost seems like, oh, we can reach out in the middle of the project.
Yeah, at the initiation of design work or before,
yes.
before design work begins.
Yes.
Maybe during design work or
before.
Okay.
Before, yeah.
Just before design work is.
Before design work is implemented. I don't.
It begins before it begins.
Before it begins.
Before design work begins. Okay.
Before design.
Yeah, I don't remember what they call these things. They have technical words. Unless we have a DOT rep on the call, this is good.
I think I saw Jennifer, if I'm correct.
Hi, I am on. I'm listening.
Is there a word that you'd rather see for us to say to DOT before you start a project?
Do you need to be caught up? We just added a further resolve saying that we want there to be, you know, good stakeholder outreach before a design, you know, before you would, whatever the years-long process is to do this kind of thing we've been discussing, at the very beginning, community involvement, stakeholder involvement. And so we've got a draft, if you could highlight it, Wendy, on the screen. Is there any words we should change in the paragraph that Wendy just highlighted that would trigger what I'm asking for, what Lee is asking for?
I think what I see looks fine, but at the same time, I think if this is something that you guys want us to do the outreach, it sounds like this would more likely be like a sort of like a similar to some of our other studies where we do have like a stakeholder meeting, and you know that's also having the stakeholders meet with us and to provide us with as much feedback as we can get. So when we are working on the design, we'll be able to implement some of the suggestions that are given to us.
Okay, how about where it says extensive outreach to all? How about extensive outreach to gather input and involvement from? Jennifer, you used a couple words there, to gather inputs and involvement from. How about that?
There you go.
That is what I meant. Thank you, so helpful, Jennifer. That is exactly what we intended. That they should have.
I'm not clear on what the purpose of this reso is in terms of the ask and the big picture. it's framing these issues and asking DOT if they can create a plan that addresses these issues.
Yeah, this is what we've done in the past to advocate for this kind of problem to be addressed. For instance, Delancey Street, there was finally a Delancey Street pedestrian safety plan put in place after years of this type of resolution from Community Board 3.
So this is basically a similar safety plan request, because it seems like there are other elements, right, to this that are structural
there are
whatnot. And then since we're not the ones crafting the plan, but then Transportation Alternatives has, you know, I don't know, like a thinking around it, or a proposal even, or a design proposal. I'm really not quite clear on sort of the roles and responsibility and what this is supposed to generate.
I would say that it's a Christmas wish list that transportation has in here. There's a lot of decorations on this tree. DOT is gonna, you know, it's a beautiful dream. I don't think all of it will happen. We're pointing out problems. We're pointing out possible solutions. It is more than pedestrian safety. It's also, you know, clean air problems. You're right. There's a lot in here. It probably wouldn't come to us as something called pedestrian safety.
Can the people from TA answer my questions in terms of, so that I get a better idea of really what the big picture is and what ultimately the goal is?
Hey, Susan has her hand up. Otherwise, I'll respond to the question.
Jason, go ahead.
I mean, our primary goal here is to raise the problem that is Canal Street and ask CB3 to ask DOT to fix it. In crafting this resolution and parts of the presentation, we include some suggested treatments. That being said, I am not a traffic engineer, nor are the other people on our team. And we would expect that DOT would use their best judgment to determine what are the treatments that best fix these problems. And so we are making suggestions, but it's not prescriptive, so to speak. And I would encourage CB3, all of you guys, to trim the wish list, the Christmas list, as you see fit in your judgment. If that's what you think's the appropriate way to address the problem.
So basically this would be now sort of, the ball is now given to us and it's up to us to deal with, or does your group plan on following up and working with DOT, or like what is really the next step after this resolution?
So we've been in contact with the council member's office on a constant basis. Having the community board resolutions helps them when they go to DOT. They can say, you know, CB1, CB2, and hopefully CB3, they all support this. There's strong support from the community. Please do something. So we are constantly in contact with a council member, and also trying to, we don't have a lot of influence at DOT, but to the extent that we can show that this is something the community wants, that helps to facilitate things happening at DOT.
Also, I would like to add that Margaret Chen, who really does represent the community, as you've said, is really speaking a lot from the point of view of people that live around the Manhattan Bridge. She was very, very concerned about a number of people dying, especially a few senior citizens. So the main thing that this resolution really supports is safety issues. So that's why it's not that controversial, really. It's more just getting them fix the sidewalk so more people can walk more comfortably, get it so that traffic isn't going so fast and turning in ways that hit people that are crossing the street. It's mainly very common sense issues that it should have been dealt with a long time ago. And in fact, a lot of these improvements aren't going to take a huge amount of capital layout. They might make a little wider sidewalks, or maybe put a bike lane, but that's not even the important issue. It's just really safety issues. And that's why I hope that you people will support it. And that's really why the other community boards went on with this. It was really more about that. The design and all that will come later. These are just really beginning steps. And as Adrian mentioned with the new tolls on the bridges, things are going to change on Canal Street. And so it would be very timely to get this through, with a lot of interest being placed on Canal Street and safety, walking and cycling issues throughout the city. So that's why, to me, I think it would be very important to act on this as soon as you can. And the other issues are much bigger issues. They're capital improvements, and that will come eventually. But this is something that needs to be done really more immediately. So
thank you.
Can we restrict to board members unless we actually invite comment, Paul? It's just
Thank you.
Does that include me or no? I have my hand up.
Susan, go ahead, Susan.
I just want to speak because the issue of procedure have been coming up. And I think this is exactly the procedure that we always do and should be doing. We should never be telling them, you must do this in the design, because they hire the experts. So we're telling them what the problems are. TA does have some expertise, so they're saying, please look at these certain things, but we're leaving it up to DOT to create a design and let the with community input. We want the community stakeholders to say they agree these are the problems or add more problems. And what DOT does, they also have resources to do outreach. And one of the first things they do is, before they even have public meetings, they have stakeholder meetings where they get the stakeholders around Canal Street and in Chinatown into meetings and present this before they even go out more broadly and, get some buy-in. When they don't do that, they end up in trouble, like the art piece in the Baxter Plaza. But this is what we should be doing. I mean, as far as procedure, I'm not commenting one way or the other on the issue, on the specifics. And I did speak to Margaret Chin's office. Margaret does very much support this.
All right, thank you, Susan. Is there any other debate on this resolution? All right, then, if that's the case, I'm ready to move this to a vote. So I'm ready to move it to a vote. Do I need a second on that, David? I'm not sure if I do.
No.
I'm just ready to go.
You just go to a vote. Yep.
Okay. Wendy, you can call out the vote. Yes for passing of the resolution. No if you don't want it.
Okay. Paul?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Wendy? Yes. Lee?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't catch that. My
said
connection
yes.
is... Okay.
You said yes.
Thank you. David?
Yes.
Felicia, still absent? Okay. Ellen?
Yes.
And Tariq?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
All right. All yeses. All right, that closes this out.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Let's go to, I got nothing else on here. All right, great. Let's do our final attendance, and then we can have a motion to adjourn after that. So Wendy, just close us out again, repeating for our
One, one more time. Paul?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes, thanks, Wendy.
Wendy, yes. Lee?
Yes, thank you.
David?
Yes.
Ellen?
Yes.
And Tariq?
Thank you, Michelle, Paul, and Wendy. And yes.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Can you call out Felicia's name?
Felicia, yes.
No, she's just absent. She's
Okay.
absent.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're gonna wrap this up. Thank you everybody for coming out tonight, and I will see everyone in a couple weeks. Have a great night. Enjoy the weather.
Good night.